Joan, how about for you? What do you think, when you think of the values that are most important to you? Share a story of where that might have come from, so that we can all share in that.
One of the things that I think is really important is that you find these experiences or moments ongoing through your entire life to remind you of how you've been blessed or where you need to continue to grow. And one of the ones that really has stuck out in my mind is I had a great opportunity, and I've been in the business of storytelling, so a lot of times that's how I end up sharing anecdotes, so bear with me. But I had a beautiful opportunity to meet with a guy who was a high school wrestling coach in Brandon, Florida, and his team had not lost in 34 years. It was the longest winning streak in the country of any sport. Of the 34 years, he had coached them 33. And I had the privilege of going down and sitting with him, and there were no cameras. I was just talking to him about potentially doing a documentary about him, and I said, why now? Why do you want to tell this story now? And he said, we're going to lose this year. And I was a little stunned, and I said, how do you know? And he said, I just know. And his son was on the team this particular year, and he smiled, and I said, how is it that you have the longest winning streak in the country? How is it that you can smile? And he said, and it'll stay with me forever, I'm really looking forward to coaching kids that know how to come back from a loss. And he said, I'm not going to say that on camera. We went on to do the documentary. It's called The Streak, that aired on ESPN. And that stuck with me. And I realized, and I think this goes back to a lot of what's going on in our culture right now, everybody gets a trophy, there's such value in the losses and in learning and coming back from that. And as a manager and a leader, to let somebody that you're responsible for make mistakes that potentially you can see coming down the road, it's so valuable. And then to guide them back from it. Now, Deb and Mark and I've talked about how do you do that when you're in a position where the bottom line is still so important. So you really don't want your people to screw up, because you want to have a profit and you want to continue to grow. But I think that's where the calculated risk comes in, where you say, okay, are they going to be a better employee, a better person, a better member of this team if they learn that, which I already know, but they need to learn it. And so those are the moments I think that will forever stick in my mind. And every year that I go through it, I think back to him and the joy in his face, the idea that he was going to have an opportunity that anybody else from the outside would have looked at him and said, that's amazing. He could go on a speaking tour. He hasn't lost. And for him, the joy is in the learning, and it is coming back.
Life around here is all about winning. So how does a heartfelt leader, how are you different? Being a heartfelt leader, what do you do when your team loses? How do you bring them back? How do you handle that? Do you fire them?
Oh, no. Oh, no. The buck stops here. This is our problem. But somebody did something wrong, but we're responsible for it, and we're going to take care of it.
Can we hear from Joan about
Yes.
what happens when you lose? You've probably had a situation in your career.
Sure.
What do you do? How do you get people back from that? How do you lead through it?
Yeah, I think it all really comes down to what kind of a team you've built around yourself, or that you are a part of, and how you feel like you're contributing to a team. Because I think you come back together is what you do. Yeah. And I definitely feel as though with every win, it's a great moment to pat yourself on the back and say, isn't that wonderful? And everybody else pat. But a loss is an opportunity for a team to do that and to recognize what everybody brought to the table, and also what would we do differently. And it sounds so basic, but it's not. I liken it to when you're a child and you take a test. I was very lucky when I was a kid to go to a school and you took a test and you handed it in, you didn't get a grade, you got it back to correct. And you'd hand it in again, and then you got it back to correct. And you never got a grade until you got 100, you weren't done with that test. And so that's what it feels like. It's not, okay, we lost, okay, great. No, it's, okay, how is this going to be different next time? What are we going to do differently? And to take the time to address it. Because if you don't, then the lessons aren't there for anyone. And I also think they're in business, and any business, a lot of people can spend too much time licking their wounds. We've all done it. But having a strong team around you that is saying, no, come on, let's keep moving. What's next? I think that's how you continue to build on it.
Another question. How have you stayed true to these values? Because a lot of the questions we had and the challenges, okay, we want to be heartfelt, but the world, much of the world doesn't care about that. And so how do you hold on to those values in the face of a world that, instead of daring to care, sometimes couldn't care less?
By staying grounded on your belief, in your essence of what is it that you want to do and what is it that you want to be remembered about. I always said, and I've been saying this as an adult, I've been saying it for about 20 years. Somebody asked me once, what do you want to be remembered? The day of your funeral, somebody's saying something about you. What do you want them to say? And I said, I just want them to say, she was a kind person. That's it. It's not about anything else. That's it. And I think that is the foundation that my parents placed in me. Last year, I also got to do something very special. I participated in Leadership LA. A lot of cities have these leadership programs. And one of the things that we had to do is write our own mission. What is it that about each of us that defines who we are and the center? Because if you are able to define that, everything you do around that focuses on that will keep you grounded. And so I came up with, I want to be a source of inspiration and a resource to underprivileged kids, especially young women, to help them achieve their dreams. No, to help them find their dreams and achieve them. So, be it the work that I do at Mattel around diversity and inclusion, I'm not dealing with underprivileged kids per se, but I'm dealing with making sure that there's an even feel, there's an even feel out there for everyone to be part of it, to be part of Mattel. I want to reach out to the communities where Mattel might or might not have a strong presence and make sure that we're relevant to them too. I want to be there to inspire the kids because there were many women in my younger age who inspired me. I'm not them, but they inspire me. And if I can do that for a young woman or a young man who might especially be from underprivileged situation, I want to show them that it's possible because I did it. So I ground my essence of my work around that. And that also helps me with the nonsense that I have to deal with. Because I know that at the end of the day, it's about this. This is what, at the end of the day, is driving me.
So how do you stay centered through all this stuff?
I've had the blessing of having some really fantastic mentors and bosses in my career. We've all had experiences where you have bosses potentially that are challenging. And I think that your legacy is almost really built on how you do in the latter situation more than the former, because it really, it's almost like somebody in the military. You're told to do your job, whether or not you agree. This is what you're told to do. This is what you're delivering. And so in the cases where I've had a challenge, where there's been challenging personalities or any of that, we really need to seek out support and mentors around us. It might not be in our industry, it might not be on our team. Mark does a great job of this, introducing women that can sit down and not complain about what your situation is, but say, okay, this is where I'm really feeling a challenge. And I think it's important. I think it's very important to have that support to draw you back. So, because I mentioned licking your wounds, it can happen in any situation. And when you're being watched, when you're a leader, and you are being watched all the time, and there is a loss or there is something, I think it's still your responsibility to lead. And so you go outside and you find the people, the mentors, the friends, that can talk you through it. That can give you anecdotes. And in fact, I had a difficult situation at one point, and I really didn't want to talk to anybody about it, and I was really struggling with it, and I got a call from a coach. This is the third sports coach that we've mentioned, and that was not supposed to be a theme, but an NFL coach who I really treasure his friendship, and he said to me, which he never talked about, let me tell you about the first time I got fired. And I was in shock because it's not something that he would really talk about. And he said, let me tell you what it felt like to be on a public stage. And there are some people, we all feel like people are watching us, but there's a public stage for this. But he said to me, this is how I came back. And I came back through these people that supported me and my family and the people that looked at me and said, this is who you are and this is what got you here. And caring about people and wanting to grow people and all of that got you here. And it's going to get you further. So I would just encourage everybody to find that team of people, even if it's a couple of people that you can go to and not complain, but just say, this is what I need some support on. This is where I'm really challenged. So.
Do you think there's a place for heartfelt leadership? I mean, this is our first conference. We all talk about it, we like it, but do you think there is a place for it, and if so, where?
There is.
Where's the place for it?
The place of it is, to be honest with you, I believe, and it's grounded, that there is a place for it in every organization, in every corporation. It doesn't mean that it's easy. And it doesn't mean that you're going to face challenges around it. But if you operate from a heartfelt place, that you want to grow your company. You want to grow your revenues and your profit and your margins and all of that. But at the same time, you want to be responsible. You are a responsible company. You own your decisions. You treat your employees and your customers and everyone in a fair way. I do believe that at the end of the day, everybody will succeed better. Yes, there is competitive environment. Yes, we deal with all of that. But when I was in sales and working in Latin America, I developed friendships with all the major customers. That even though I'm not in those roles today, real friendships came out of that. Friendships because we worked for each other's benefit. Yes, I was making sales, but I also make sure that the sales I was giving them or the product that I was selling to them was the appropriate product for them. I was not just pushing product on them. I knew that by investing in promotions and activities, I could benefit them too in building traffic in their stores and so forth. So there was always that common, this is good for both. And kept my word, which is something that I've always learned from parents. If you say something, keep your word. If you promise something, don't ever take it back. And so you build a reputation. And yes, I dealt with awful customers too. Did they get the same kindness and respect from me that the others? Probably not. I'm gonna be honest, probably not. Because I think it has to be reciprocal.
How about you, just a couple comments, Joan, about, do you think there is a place for heartfelt leadership?
And what about the results of heartfelt leadership? You and I had a conversation about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely think that there's a place for it. I think that we're all in this room because a part of us feels like we do lead from the heart. And that's a gift that you've been given. I truly believe that. If you have that, and if you make decisions, and as you're making decisions that affect the bottom line and affect your staff and affect your team and your company, if the heart is coming into your head, that's a good thing. And it's about honing how you then make decisions based on that information and caring about people, but also caring about the bottom line. You know, I think that the biggest thing, the biggest challenge or opportunity with heartfelt leadership, and maybe it's something that you'd each want to do for one day, is technology has changed the way that we interact with people so much that we can very quickly shoot off an email or a text or something to somebody that that builds a fire under something, and builds the opposite of heartfelt leadership, which is drama. And we all know what that is. So, you know, take one day where you don't say to the person next to you, can you believe what she just did? Can you believe what he just did? Or he's driving me crazy. One day where you just don't send the notes, don't say it to anyone, and you recognize how much of our energy we spend unknowingly, and it's not malicious. It's really not meant to be malicious, but it is such a time suck. And if you can rechannel that into, okay, well, how can I build somebody else up today? Because I really want to break that person down. Because we all, you know, we want to succeed. In order to succeed, you have to have that hunger too. Break that person up. I'm not going to. I'm going to build somebody else up. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge, but opportunity to lead from the heart, and people will notice that very, very quickly. So.
Wow, what a place for
Thank you.
heartfelt leadership.